So, we better do this fast because allegedly it's supposed to snow in like an hour. You ready? So, shut this so we don't get too much wind noise. We're going to talk about how this bike handles on the road. So in terms of road handling, the 1290 feels a little bit similar to the 1190, which is hardly surprising. I mean, it has the exact same wheelbase and the exact same rake. So it sort of makes sense that we have similar handling. The difference, and this is a big difference, is that the 1290 has a smaller trail. It's down to 4.8 inches from 5.1 or something like that. And that does something important. It means that the bike is quite a bit more flickable. It means that the steering is quite a bit twitchier. It handles exceptionally on the pavement, even when you're stuck behind a very slow Volvo. I'm gonna call it out right now. This is the best handling bike with a 21-inch front wheel on the pavement. It really is something remarkable. I mean, I reviewed the Africa Twin last year and complained like nothing else about how it handled on the pavement, and I blamed a lot of that on the wheel and whatever. Flashback! I know TKC 80s well enough to say that they aren't the problem, so I blame a combination of the 21-inch wheel size and the soft suspension. Back! This thing also has a 21-inch front wheel, but it's stellar. It handles incredibly. Woohoo! Ooh, that power is addictive. So the downside I should mention actually as I was doing that with having less trail is that there's less rolling stability. I actually noticed a fair bit of head shake when I was riding this thing on the highway the other day. And it does have a steering damper down in there. I don't know if you can see it. And that fixes it adequately enough. You know, I didn't get any tank slappers, nothing scary. But you do notice a little bit of handlebar wobble at speed. I think just because that trail number's down. So that's a little bit I've said about the handling. Now as I'm going to brake, I'm going to talk about my least favorite thing about the bike, which is the front brake. It absolutely sucks, and there's no reason why. I mean, it's Brembo calipers, 4 pistons, it should be good, but the initial bite is horrible. It's incredibly weak, and the engagement point, I mean, you could draw me a map with color and an X on the treasure, and I still wouldn't be able to find the engagement point. C'est la vie. In general, love the way that this bike handles on the pavement. It's pretty much as good as the R1200 GS, which has a 19-inch front wheel, and that's saying a lot. Really terribly sharp handling. Love it. So, the other thing I can say, now that I've been going like this, and it's freezing out today, it feels like 0 or something like that, but my ass is on fire. I mean, KTM, they put a heat guard under the seat since the 1190, which is a cute effort. It's kind of like wrapping tinfoil around the sun. It doesn't really do the job. I'm still very aware that I'm sitting on a 1,301cc V-twin. My bum is hot. Now, I'm talking like this is a fire-breathing engine, and to some extent it is. I mean, 160 horsepower is nothing to sneeze at, but it is actually detuned version of the Super Duke engine. I mean, detuned is a weird word to use when you're talking about something with 160 horsepower, but it's true. This is a detuned engine, and with that comes very predictable, very linear power delivery. Now, it's not anywhere near as snappy as the 1190. It just pulls and pulls and pulls, but it's actually quite calm in terms of the way this engine puts down the power. What you also get with that is, you know, pretty long service intervals, 15,000 kilometers, something like that. You know, you're not dealing with a finicky little purebred. This is a detuned engine, should be more reliable because of that. Now, the last thing I'm going to say about the handling of this bike on pavement is that the seating position is a little bit weird. I'm 35 inches up off the ground. The angle on the tank here is sort of wide. It definitely needs some stomp grip down here to be able to pinch it properly. And it's a one-piece seat. You know, it's a plank seat. It's sort of flat, so I can easily shift my weight back and forward when I'm riding off-road, which is great when I'm riding off-road. But on pavement here, when I sort of put the bike in sport mode and just hammer it, woo! Like that, and the wheel comes up, and I feel like I'm going to fall right off the thing. You know, I'll be bouncing around on this freezing-ass ground. And on that note...
I have 2 hot chocolates, please. Yeah. Small? Yeah, small.
So, let's take a look at the KTM 1290 Super Adventure R. The R, as I'm told to call it by KTM. It's a pirate bike, apparently. Or it's a gazelle, at least it looks like one from the front. Or it's a 1200 GS killer, and that's what it's supposed to be. Whatever this bike is, it is certainly an experience. 160 horsepower in this thing. It's an intense motorcycle, ready to race, yeah. No freaking kidding. I mean, this thing is extreme. It's a ludicrous, ridiculous machine. KTM's good at making those. That's what we got going on there. This is Gorilla Glass, my nice iPad on here. Gives me a ton of information. Of course, I have all the motorcycle ride modes, sport, street, rain, off-road, whatever. Traction control, leaning ABS, hill hold. I can get a ton of information about the motorcycle, just crazy precise information that's a bit of a novelty to have. I mean, tire pressures normally pop up here to 2 decimal places, as if anyone needed to know that precise. But it's a novelty, but it's nice to have. It looks nice, and it's easy to control with this backlit switchgear, which didn't used to be backlit on the 1190, but it is now. To turn the bike on, normally I'd hit this on any other motorcycle, but that just turns off the keyless thing anyway, because it's a fob. So that is just what you have to do to get the bike awake, and then you actually press this one to turn it on. So I screw that up a lot, actually. It's a bit annoying, but I'm sure I would get used to it. I'll start the bike now. That's what it sounds like. It's gonna make my hot chocolate go flying. Now they put a Kropovich exhaust on here. Oh, it's warm. Oh, I like that. Man, today is cold. So they put a Kropovich exhaust on here for the press release, which kind of belies the fact that they think maybe it doesn't sound that good. I think it sounds okay. Of course, it would sound better with an Kropovich exhaust, and of course, anything sounds better when you're eating a catered lunch on sand dunes in Peru. But hey, that's the nature of press launches, and I'll save my rant about that for another video. Anyway, that's about it.
A little sippy.
Well, it is officially snowing. Keep it coming, Mother Nature. All right, time to face the cold one more time. And then it'll cut to just like being riding. It'll be cool. Okie dokie, it is time to ride off-road, so I gotta go and adjust my settings, off-road mode. Of course I want that. That limits the bike to 100 horsepower. You really want that, because if you take 160 horses off-road, they're gonna buck ya. They have an off-road traction control that lets you slide the rear wheel a bit, but I still find it feels way too digital. And the ABS, we're gonna turn you off as well. Again, off-road ABS lets you lock up the rear wheel and not the front, so that's fine. So I could have just turned it in off-road mode, but whatever. And it says not legal. Ah! You know, Justin Trudeau, you can try to stop me. I'm gonna do it anyway. So now this is one of 3 spots on the island of Montreal that I know I can off-road, and none of them are very big. But I'm basing what I say here on about 300 or 400 kilometers of off-road riding that I've already done on this bike. So you can walk this bike along near idle like I'm doing right now. You know, just kind of walk it through this puddle at idle. And that's because KTM put more weight in the flywheel versus the previous versions. Oh, woohoo! Slideways! You can't quite mosey it along like a 12GS because the gearing is still a little bit tall. So you can't quite walk it around as much as the BMW, but if you're going up a few teeth on the rear for off-roading, which is what I would probably do if I were to buy this bike, then I think you'd be pretty perfectly set up there. The chassis, the suspension too, oh, very well set up for off-roading. It feels amazing, you know, it's just easily manageable, narrow between the legs. I mean, you can just bomb it. Yeah, it's brilliant. Now with the suspension, I do have it tweaked a little bit. I went up a couple strokes on the compression, and I went down a couple notches on the rebound because we were jumping it last week for the main review, and I found it was bucking me a little bit and bottoming out a little bit. Woo, this is slick. Here's Mark Andre. I think he got stuck or something. You get stuck? A little bit? All right, I'm gonna finish up this run and I'll come back. I don't think I'm supposed to be back here. I'm gonna turn this thing around. That'll give me a chance to talk to you actually about one of my least favorite things about this bike. Come on. Which is the hill hold control, which is part of the $600 travel pack electronics upgrade, along with the quick shifter and the Bluetooth connection for my cell phone, and what else? The electronic slipper clutch. And all that and the hill hold control comes together for $600 extra. But the hill hold control is really annoying off-road, because on an ADV bike, when you want to do a U-turn, you pull up a little hill like this, and then you grab your brake to stop it, and you pull back to make the U-turn. But with the hill hold, it won't let you do that, because it's going to try to hold the bike up. So I've got it disabled. It wasn't like it was hard to disable it. So it's all sorted out in the end. Kit-wise, I have engine bars And I have Continental TKC 80s on here stock. That's good. It's still missing a few things. I'll stop here so I can help Marc-Andre. It's missing the, well, it's missing a side stand foot that's decently wide, because that's a sinker. It's missing the skid plate underneath, although the ground clearance is 9.8 inches, which is pretty good. Exact same ground clearance as the Africa Twin, actually, which might sound like a coincidence if you're not a KTM engineer. It needs some pre-filters in the nostrils here, otherwise it's going to suck too much sand off-roading. It needs a radiator guard under there that's not just the dinky plastic one. But other than that, pretty well set up for off-roading. I've been jumping it, sliding it, abusing the thing off-road, and it's handled it well. Of course, I am just some schmuck with a press bike. I didn't buy the thing. You know, if I spent 20 grand on this machine, would I really want to jump it around and do all these crazy things? I don't really know. Anyway, it's freezing. I'm going to get Marc-Andre out. And on that note,
This is all planned. That's it. Oh, I gotta stop this.